Hey, Hank Azaria. Hey, thanks so much for joining the show today. It's an honor.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor for me.
Well, all of us watching this and listening to this have long time fans of yours, myself included. So it really is a treat. But we should tell everyone we're talking because the Hank Azaria and his Easy Street Band are coming to the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on March 6th, and then the Baltimore Soundstage, obviously in Baltimore, Maryland, on March 7th. So the Easy Street Band, by the way, I guess obviously a play on Springsteen, but how did it come about? Wasn't it you wanted to sing some of the Boss for your 60th birthday last year, something like that? Remind us how you got into this singing lessons.
Yeah, I turned 60 last April, had, as you kids like to say, felt a certain way about that. Wanted to cheer myself up, came up with this crazy scheme that I would do like a reverse surprise party. Most of my friends are Springsteen fans, so I told them, well, I got this great Springsteen cover band coming. Didn't tell them that I'd been working for months to front it and be the lead vocalist on it. Been imitating Bruce the way he talks since I was a teenager. But singing like Bruce is a different thing. Takes a lot of work.
Well, speaking of taking a lot of work, yes. So how did that work? So obviously, you had a tribute Springsteen tribute band coming in already, but you're like, I'm gonna jump up there and front it.
No, I
So
created the whole band. I lied about that. I my son's piano teacher was in a Genesis cover band.
okay.
And I went to him and said, if I wanted to do a Springsteen thing, do you think you could put together a band for me? And he said, sure. So the band was formed just for this purpose. There was not like, I didn't like insert myself into some Springsteen tribute band.
Right,
But then
right.
I got really obsessed. I have never worked harder on a vocal impression in my life. I mean that. And that is saying something because I've spent the last 40 years
Oh,
doing
you're the
pretty
king
much
of
nothing,
impressions. Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
but that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's then I got the impression down, the singing, and I started working with a vocal coach who is also one of the backup singers in the band. And we sounded good. We raised a lot of money for charity that night. I told everybody no gifts, but donate to my foundation. We raised 30K. And it went so well that I was like, why don't we just keep doing it? And we're doing it now in Baltimore and Alexandria, among many other places.
So you're taking it on the road. That's great. What is the
As
key to a Springsteen impression? Is there, if there's a way to break down the, impressionology of of it? Is there a certain cadence, or is it the gravelly voice, or what is it?
For me, as an impressionist, I just listen to something over and over until it sounds to, and play it back to myself until it
Yeah.
sounds to my ear, starts to sound good.
Yeah.
And some are harder than others. But I kind of found a back door into learning to sing properly in the course, which I'd never taken seriously before because I've sung all in my career. But
If Chief Wiggum sings a song, which he's done a lot on The Simpsons, you don't really care how good he sounds. If Mo sings a song, you don't really care as long as it's semi in tune and funny. But this was a different thing. I had to actually, especially singing through the Bruce rasp, you know. So, it's not easy. So so if you're a Springsteen fan and you're hearing this, please come. I'm really curious what you think. We try really hard to sound exactly like the E Street Band, vocally and musically. So I'm curious what y'all think.
Oh, we are so excited, and I'm sure you're gonna nail it because it's sounding really good, at least through the microphone. We can't wait in
Well, the
person.
talking's good. The talking part I got.
Clarence, you're gonna give Santa give us a new saxophone. Yeah, I can't do it, but that reminds me. Do you have a Max Weinberg and a Clarence? Like, do you have people standing in that
No,
already in the
we're
band, or is
we're
it mostly
not.
just
We have a great drummer and saxophonist, the band is great. We are a tribute band that is trying to sound as exactly like the E Street Band and
yeah,
Bruce as we can. We're not impersonators.
yeah,
I don't like come out there. We all wear black, but which is very Springsteen-y. But I do tell, we're purposely in a theater because I tell a lot of stories as Bruce. I kind of feel it. It's almost a one-man show.
yeah,
And I tell some stories about how Bruce created certain songs that are interesting.
yeah,
I tell about the night was love at first sight for me and my wife. I tell that leading into the song She's the One.
yeah.
I tell the story of how I met Bruce in person a couple of times. It made a real fanboy idiot of myself. I tell that in the middle of growing up. So it's kind of a performance piece, but in the middle of that are 12, 14 Bruce songs
Yeah.
that are hopefully as good or better than any Springsteen tribute band you've ever heard.
Let's tease some of the song. I know we don't want to give away the whole set list, but what are some of, maybe some of the bigger hits, the Born to Runs and the Hungry Hearts, etc. Or even maybe some deeper cuts that you're like, this maybe not might not be as famous, but this is one of my personal favorites that you slipped in there.
We do both of the above songs you mentioned. We try to balance between some deep cuts, some songs that mean things to me. I can actually send you. We do Thunder Road.
Yeah.
We do She's the One, as I mentioned. We do Darkness on the Edge of Town. We do Candy's Room. We do Dancing in the Dark,
Of course.
Promised Land, Jungle Land, Rosalita.
Oh, all the live ones that all the live concert goers.
Yeah, the live energy ones that
Yeah.
really kind of grab me. In fact, I should send you
Shoot it over, yeah.
a video of our Thunder Road.
After we hop off here, you can shoot it over to me.
Okay, all right.
But you mentioned Thunder Road. Man, I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite, but I just admire. Do you like me? Do you admire the visual storytelling in that thing? Like right from it just paints a visual picture. You can see screen door slams, Mary's dress waves, like a vision she dances across the porch as the radio plays. Like, do you think the visual storytelling is part of his genius? I mean, there's a Dylan movie in the theater now, but I think Bruce is just as much of a poet, easily.
Yes. Well, at first, and early in his career, he was kind of hailed as the next Dylan.
Yeah,
Those first couple albums, especially his first one, Greetings from Asbury Park.
yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. It's perceptive because, people ask him when we first started playing these gigs, do you feel like a rock star? And, the answer is sort of, but mostly I feel like a Bruce fan
Yeah.
who might be has a great band and is able to mimic better than the average person.
Yeah.
But I'm doing what everybody does at a Bruce show, which is just singing every word to every song.
Yeah.
And I think and I share my personal memories and the movies that play in my head when these songs play. But if I may do this as part of the show, part of these shows coming up, if I pulled anybody up there who was a Bruce fan, they could share their story, their movie that plays in their head.
Yeah.
And that is really what comes through in the show is this kind of communal. It comes through at a real Bruce show, of course. And I really try in this show to make that even more of an immediate, visceral, communal experience. We're all just Bruce fans celebrating this music.
Absolutely. It's so funny that you mentioned the movie that plays in your head, that phrase, Hank Azaria, because I think my favorite, most underrated, I guess more of a deep cut of Bruce is ties into a movie. It ties into Grapes of Wrath. I love The Ghost of Tom Joad. I don't know.
Amazing.
Isn't it amazing? Especially when Tom Morello got up with them and was playing that live video. Everyone
Yeah.
YouTube it now. It's freaking amazing. But
Yeah.
it just speaks to like I don't know, Dickensian inequalities of modern day, America. Men walking along the railroad tracks and sleeping under the bridge and all. It's
That's,
powerful.
Bruce's many things. One of his traditions is like Pete Seeger, who was played brilliantly by Edward Norton in the Dylan movie.
Yeah.
Folk singer, social commentator,
Yeah.
born in the USA. A lot of that was that. The other thing
Misinterpreted
about
as
Bruce,
patriotic, yeah, a lot of times.
by Reagan, yes, which
Right.
is why I think Bruce ended up doing more of a stripped down version.
Right.
The other thing about Bruce is that a lot of brilliant artists have in any medium is that ability to make you feel like he is speaking or singing just to you.
Yeah.
It is very personal. Great movie stars have that. You feel like they're your best friend.
Yeah.
And Bruce and his music feel like that's like, wait a minute, he's telling my life story somehow.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Awesome. How many times have you seen the Boss live? I've only seen him once live at Nats Park, and I was actually, now I think about it, I was there covering when he got the Presidential Medal of Freedom as Obama was going out
Oh, wow.
in the White House. And it's funny you said you made a fool of him and full of yourself in front of him. My memory was him walking across, leaving the White House, walking across the crosswalk, and all I could muster was Bruce. How many times have you seen him live? And what was one of these embarrassing stories that you said? I want to know you're in person.
I tell this story as part of growing up
Yeah.
in the show. So I'll tease it. I won't tell the whole thing, but I'll tease that he came to see a Broadway show I did called Spamalot. And he came backstage and we chatted long enough for me to tell him what he really meant to me. I got up the nerve to do it. And it's lovely what I said and true, but it came out like this person. I sounded like a goose on acid or maybe Sonny the Cocoa Puffs rooster. I don't know. So,
Yeah.
and then I met him years later after his Broadway show. I got invited to come say hi
Right.
afterwards. And I made a vow not to do that again. Like I'm going to be calm and not scream at him. And before he could even say hello, I was like, "Bless you, grown up." I did the same exact thing. And so my wife was like, "What is the matter with you?" I'm like, "I can't." My friend calls it Bruce juice.
You
It's
just
it's
just
it's the
verbal diarrhea. I love you. I
it's
love you.
what
Yeah.
overtakes you
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you see Bruce, which he's used to. But I've only seen him twice in my life. I mean, personally, not
Yeah.
on stage. I've seen him like 25 times.
Of
But yeah,
course.
I tell the whole detailed story of that as part of the song "Growing Up"
Yeah,
in
you
the show.
gotta come. You gotta come to the show to hear the full stories. But if it was backstage at Spamalot, you should have come up with him with the galloping coconuts. That's still one of the funniest things that Monty Python bow down before at the altar.
It was great. He loved it. She was really sweet. He gave me like a whole review of the show. It's like, I love that show. It started out kind of silly and funny, then became like a celebration of comedy itself.
Yeah,
He gave me this whole really cool, really thoughtful review. Like he really paid attention to the whole thing.
that's great. I assume you were a fan of actual Monty Python growing up. Well, John
Yes.
Cleese came to Warner Theater at DC and did it. Now we're tangenting. We'll bring it back. But they screened Monty Python for our anniversary or something, and we all remember the quote, "Bring out your dead," and the
Yeah.
all the funny stuff. But the little underrated part that just got me in stitches watching it on the big screen for the first time was there's like later in the movie they're like storming the castle and he's running up this staircase and he like stops and he sees like a vase of flowers and he just turns back and chops that too, like so just so that won't attack me. It was, there's little moments all over. All right, well anyway, it sort of transitions into movies and TV and stuff. So I know guess you were born in New York in '64, so I guess you'd have been what, 9 when Greetings from Asbury Park came, New Jersey, and then 11
Yes,
when Birdcage. Yeah.
that I wasn't aware of the release of that album. I didn't discover Bruce till I was about 12 or 13
Right, right,
at
right.
summer
Okay.
camp.
Right, right.
And it was Born to Run was out by then, and that was the
Right.
first I became aware of.
So those are some sort of early musical influences of the Boss. How about like early, like we also know you for your comedy and your drama acting. Actually, I'd love to get into some of your roles, quiz show, etc. I'm a huge fan. But yeah, like even in the early days, pre Simpsons, pre even Tufts University, like I'm talking about growing up, like who were your comedy icons? Like who was it for you growing up?
There were a lot of them because, especially as an aspiring mimic, I would try to, imitate whatever I saw.
Yeah,
My big heroes were Peter Sellers, for sure,
of course.
all the Python guys,
Yeah,
George Carlin, dramatic actors like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
yeah.
Um, Johnny Carson was a big influence on me. Um, and yeah, Al Pacino, I did a young, it's just young old Al Pacino sounds like this.
Yeah,
Young Al was more like this.
yeah,
And
very different, very different. Yeah.
fun fact, halfway between young Al Pacino on one end and Bruce Springsteen on the other,
Right in the middle there is Motor Bartender. So these things
That's the
all
spectrum of voice.
became a mashup eventually for me.
When did
But yeah,
Pacino shift, by the way? Because you're right. Early on in Godfather and Serpico and Dog Day Afternoon, it's the Attica. Maybe Yelling Attica did it, or Tony Montana. Maybe somewhere along
I don't
Scarface,
know.
he got scratchier after that.
A
He,
lot of older
yeah,
actors that happens to their voice.
yeah.
I used to imitate Mickey Rourke. It's probably too before your time, but
No,
Pope
yeah,
of Greenwich Village.
of course.
And now Mickey sounds like that too.
Yeah,
A lot of guys as they age, I don't know. I don't
yeah.
know why it turns to gravel.
From Diner to the Wrestler, it's a different Mickey. um, all right, cool. So then moving right along. So yes, I guess you studied drama at Tufts, and I guess Oliver Platt was one of your classmates, and I'm
You
sure
have really
you
done
got
your research, my friend.
try to,
Yes.
but all this is building to what everyone wants to hear as well. You've teased it a bunch with The Simpsons starting in '89. Like, I guess you'd voice like a animated dog in a pilot for Fox that failed. But then how does The Simpsons audition come up? Like, is it fellow, peers say, hey, you should really throw your hat in the ring for this?
No, that cartoon you mentioned that failed was for Fox. This is the very early days of Fox when you weren't sure if they would even stick around as a network.
Yeah.
Because there was ABC, NBC, and CBS, and since the beginning of television in the 50s or whatever. And, this was the first new network. So I was doing a play in Hollywood where I was doing a Pacino voice as a drug dealer. And I auditioned with that voice.
Yeah.
And they liked it, but they said, and I came in because they had known me from that other project.
Yeah.
And they said, we like it, but can you make it gravelly? So
if you make Mo the Bartender gravelly, or you put some Springsteen into it, you get Al Pacino, excuse me, gravelly. Then you get Mo the Bartender.
And that was the first voice I did. And then each week they sort of would add one or another. And then eventually by season 2, I was a regular. I was doing like 10 or 12 voices on the show.
I love it. So there you go, folks. Mo the Bartender, all those famous lines and arguments with Bart's prank calls and everything. Oh, there was Al Pacino inspiring some of that. I had no idea.
It was also, there was famous crank calls that had gone, well, we didn't have the term viral then.
Yeah.
But people passed around. It was this guy pranking a bartender in New Jersey, and the bartender's name was Red.
And he was like this. Yeah, Red speaking. How you doing?
Some of them was like Wolfman Jack. These are very old references.
Oh, I know. Hey, American Graffiti. I'm following you. Let's go.
Great movie. And so those actually happened. A guy would call and say alcoholic, and he'd go,
yeah, we got alcoholic here. God damn it, I'll kill you.
And it was based on, those were real prank calls where the guy would catch onto it and then threaten to kill the guy pranking him.
That's hilarious. All right. Well, thank you for these backstories of Mo and Pacino and the real calls. How about Chief Wiggum? Is he here? As I ask these questions, I guess you should respond in the actual character voice. But
I guess I should. I gave you a little earlier. Yeah.
Was that a little bit of Double Indemnity or Little Caesar? Edward G. Robinson?
Yeah, it specifically, another, I failed to mention my greatest hero growing up, which was Mel Blanc, who did all the voices for the Warner Brothers cartoons, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Foghorn Leghorn, Yosemite Sam, on and on.
Yeah.
And so I loved those cartoons as a kid. And then when I discovered that one guy was doing all that guy became my hero.
Yeah.
And he would do this impression of Edward G. Robinson. Yeah, see? Muggsy, see? And
which didn't sound exact. It was an exaggeration of Edward G. Robinson.
Right.
And then my
Chief Wiggum is sort of an exaggeration of Mel Blanc's exaggeration.
Right.
But yeah.
And Chief Wiggum started out kind of slower and lower, like this, like an old newsman called David Brinkley.
Yeah.
But then we sped him up. It was like, he's too slow. And for some reason, when I sped up David Brinkley, I'm like, what about Edward G. Robinson? Let's go with that.
Yeah.
That was Chief Wiggum.
Yeah, I love it. I want to hear Chief Wiggum do, well, I don't know if you know the Double Indemnity speech with the my little man. Something got caught in my little man.
But, I don't know it. Man, you're an aficionado is what you. Yeah, where's your Messiah now?
That's 10 Commandments.
There
right?
you go. Is this the end of Rico? There's a bunch we could do. But I love it. All right. Who else should we invite in? Is the comic book guy there?
Yes, of course. He's always with me. I just did my first Comic-Con in Orlando. And that is true, actually. All my proceeds, by the way, go to charity. Just taking me out of character for a second.
Yeah.
Easy Street Band, best proceeds go to charity. Go to 4 through 9 Foundation, my foundation for education causes, social justice causes, and recovery causes. Okay. And so does all my proceeds from Comic-Con. But Comic Book Guy was based on a guy who lived next door to freshman year of college. We nicknamed him F, short for Flounder, from Edible House. He lived in a 8x8 dorm room that was filled with a bed and a Barca lounger, and that was it. He would sit in the Barca lounger. Back then we had dry erase boards. It was before the days of cell phones, and he would have a list, a friend list and an enemies list. If he liked you, you were on the friend list. And he would tell you, you have made my list. And either in a positive or negative way. And that was the basis of the comic book guy voice.
I love it. We probably don't have much time for too many more Simpsons voices, but how about we got to get Professor Frink?
Well, now, yes, Glavin. I'm sorry to cut you off, Jason. You were Glavening. Would you like to let that out? It's bad to keep it in.
You got me mid-gliving. You cut me off mid-gliving.
I'm so sorry. That can be quite painful. I can attest to that. That is based on the original Nutty Professor, boys and girls. This was an actor named Jerry Lewis. That's Jerry Lewis. That's Lews. And
Before Eddie Murphy, guys.
for Eddie Murphy. Now, I used to explain that and say, see, there was a Nutty Professor before Eddie Murphy. Now, when I explain that to the kids, Jason, they say, and who is Eddie Murphy?
Yeah, we're several generations past now. Yeah, but
Yes,
both versions of Nutty Professor are hilarious. You got to check them out. All right, how about Duffman? No, well, that'll be the last one. Duffman. Oh no.
Duffman is based on the television announcers that I grew up with in the 1970s, but very specifically, they would advertise racing events on the weekends. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday at Raceway Park. I don't know why I was always that guy, and he had to be screaming and yelling at you, but
why was it always Sunday?
Was always Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. I don't know what
truck.
that was all about, but
Yeah.
yeah, he would do the monster trucks too. Absolutely.
Gotcha. All right, there you go. Duffman. That's great.
Duffman.
All right, and then we have to mention, I mean, sadly, or well, maybe not sadly, but time marches on and whatever. Two of your greatest characters. I know you recently retired. You know, you did Apu with the Quickie Mart, and then
Yeah.
Carl, obviously. We don't have to spend too much time on it, but just talk about the decision to do that really quick because we need, it's a societal norm shift, I guess.
It's a long and interesting story, but it started with Apu. You know, there was a lot of outcry around the voice was stereotypical and was demeaning in some ways. And really, Apu was the only Indian character on television in American pop culture for about 20 years, and most of that was very funny and good, and a lot of people loved it. I loved it too. I missed doing it, but there was things about it that were marginalizing and upsetting and. It's a long story, but I made the decision, and all of us did at The Simpsons, to stop doing that voice, to retire it, along with the tropes of the character. And then, the voice of Carl and Lou the cop, they're less stereotypical. In fact, Lou's based on Sylvester Stallone, and Carl is a kid I grew up with.
Yeah.
But really, from a Hollywood representation standpoint, it was if characters are drawn of color, even if they've been drawn that way for 35 years now or something, let's let actors of color voice them because there's so much less opportunity for those folks, even in animation, even in voiceover. So that was, what happened there. And it's I get it though. A lot of people don't understand it. A lot of folks miss Apu. I do too. I'm actually working on a one-man show that does all these voices, and that isn't only about that Apu but really kind of goes into depth. And I've talked about it a lot in many other places.
Yeah.
Google me going on at length in a few podcasts about what went into all that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But my big message is this, Jason, is there was a lot that I had to learn that had to inform that decision. And you might have made a different decision. You might have decided to keep doing the voice, but I would venture to guess that most folks, most white folks, didn't know a lot of the stuff that I didn't know either. And it's good to know that stuff and then have that inform your decision about a character like that and other things.
Very fair decision, and absolutely let's allow more diverse opportunities for people to find work in this biz. Well,
that's what it comes down to.
It's fun seeing and it's cool and impressive to see how the show's evolved over the years. I guess, gosh, the longevity of The Simpsons is what I'm getting at. I mean, in general, like the longest running American sitcom, not just animated, sitcom in general. And if you throw out if you take out like Meet the Press and some of the other news programs, I think it's the longest American like scripted primetime show just overall. Like
I'm
talk,
pretty sure that it is.
speak to
Yeah.
how like obviously you didn't know that when you were starting this. No one did. You and Homer and Lisa, all the great voices, all of you like kind of have grown up together over these years, but we've grown up with you. A lot of your memories are our memories, you know. So yeah, just how much does it baffle you to look back and say, wow, this is like the dream job and we've gotten to do this for like 30, 40 years now.
With it, every year it goes on, I get more grateful and more astounded.
Yeah.
I just turned 60, as I said earlier, and
Yeah.
I auditioned for that when I was 23. So I've been doing it way more than half my life. And, stability and longevity and show business usually do not go hand in hand. So to basically be able to have a day job like this that I love doing,
Mhm.
that has brought people, so much joy. And, people like yourself have grown up with it.
Yeah.
Like I grew up with those Warner Brothers cartoons,
Yeah.
and so that really warms my heart.
Yeah.
And it's the greatest gig ever. It really is. And I still love doing it.
It's gotta be. Yeah, you say we grew up with it. I think I was in fifth grade for the big Who Shot Mr. Burns cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But like we're kids, we're like, oh, we
I
can't wait.
wasn't that much older than you back then,
Yeah,
Jason. I mean,
yeah,
I was a young
exactly.
man doing that. Yeah.
So we all thought it was what Waylon Smithers with the W and the S on the sundial. Turns out it was upside down. M&S Maggie Simpson pulled the trigger. That was our Dallas. That was Who Shot JR for us.
That's right.
I love it. I love it. Well, congrats and thanks for all the Simpsons memories. But before we run, I know we're up against the clock, but I teased it earlier. I want to praise arguably my favorite project of yours, which was Quiz Show.
Oh, cool.
94.
You're a real film aficionado.
Thank you
You've
so
really
much.
watched your stuff. Yes.
Thank you. Actually, let's test it really quick. Say any year. I'm going to show off now.
Any-
Say any year.
any year?
Well, and that movie's existed. That the Oscars existed.
Give me 1979.
That would have Kramer versus Kramer beats Apocalypse Now and all that jazz. And I can do any year. It's weird.
That's amazing. I was 15 that year. And
Yeah.
give me 1986.
Platoon. Although David Lynch just died, so Blue Velvet came out that year, and yeah. These are the Oscar winners. Yeah.
Let me turn around to you. What was the year that Dustin Hoffman won for Rain Man? Do you remember that?
88, definitely.
Okay, that makes sense. I was actually at that Oscars. It was the
Really?
first year I went because I was dating a girl who was dancing in when they still did those Oscar dance numbers.
Yeah.
Um,
Was
I was
Billy
dating a
Crystal hosting, or who was the host?
That I do not
Remember?
remember. I
Yeah,
don't
no.
remember. But yeah,
Either
wow,
way.
you do know your stuff. Wow.
Well, either way, yeah, we're. Thank you. I love testing it out. But you're the voice. You're the voice aficionado, so I can't hold a candle to you. But anyway, Quiz Show. Yeah, how we got. Robert, folks, if you haven't watched Quiz Show, I guess it just celebrated its 30th anniversary last year. But Robert Redford, like I think it should be taught in film theory classes. Like the way that you and Dan Enright, who is it, David Paymer? Yeah. The way you sort of trap Charles Van Doren, like I don't know if you can see on the Zoom call, but like your like shoulders, like you know what I mean, enter the frame and you kind of trap him.
It was a pleasure to see Robert Redford. That was very purposeful, obviously.
Yeah.
I remember him putting us in the shot like that and rehearsing that scene pretty specifically in a lot of detail to make sure it felt like a kind of slow circling of prey, like by coyotes or something,
Yeah.
and then closing in on him. Absolutely. Redford was really intentional about that. I mean, look, my first three movies were Pretty Woman, Quiz Show, and Birdcage. It's a hell of a
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. I thought they all were going to be that good and that successful. Spoiler alert, I was wrong, but it was amazing to start out that way. And I learned so much on each, Gary Marshall and Robert Redford and Mike Nichols, all really great filmmakers.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from those guys.
Just being Agador Spartacus in Birdcage. I think you even
Which
got a
is
SAG,
an impression
SAG
of my
nomination.
maternal grandmother, by the way. Agador Spartacus is my
really?
mother's mother, Jess. She's a beautiful Spanish lady, no longer with us, but she was the basis of the voice.
And gosh, just to be on set with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane and Mike Nichols, like all these, that's a comedy sandbox that anyone would want to play in. That is just amazing.
It was amazing. And what was surprisingly hilarious was Gene Hackman.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
You wouldn't have, I mean, not like Robin was, like,
Yeah.
doing bits all the time, but in his role,
Yeah.
he was so funny and
Yeah.
so incredible. Yeah, no, that was, I turned 30 doing that. I was shooting Heat with Al Pacino and De Niro
Yeah.
at the same time.
Which was their
And
first movie to get, well, they'd done Godfather 2, but that was different timelines, you know what I mean? But that was the first
yes,
like
first time they
independent
acted
movie.
together.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And yeah, that was really something. That was a hell of a 30th birthday. The night of my 30th birthday, I shot that scene with Al with the great ass scene. And then I went straight to the Birdcage set. That morning when we wrapped, I shot 24 hours straight on my 30th birthday on Heat and Birdcage, which is,
That's basically your what is it, Bo Jackson or Deion Sanders, playing in baseball and hopping on a plane going to football. That's the equivalent of dramatic acting, heat and comedic in the
for
Birdcage.
for a character actor, that would be as
Yeah,
close to Bo Jackson as I'm going to get,
yeah.
or Deion Sanders. Yes.
My synapses are firing. When you were saying Gene Hackman was funny, I flipped it and imagined Robin Williams in The French Connection chasing the train. Can you imagine Rob? Oh, how
Probably wouldn't have gone as well. No. Gene Hackman was also hilarious in Young Frankenstein. Did you ever see?
Oh my
You probably
God.
have. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the fact that Mel Brooks made that and Blazing Saddles the same year is freaking insane to me.
Yeah. Yeah. He was really had
Do you have
a
a
hot
favorite
hand for
singer
a
from
while.
Young Frankenstein? Do you have a favorite?
I mean, there's so many. Gene Hackman, I say this a lot when anybody's tall.
Yeah.
Oh, you must have been the tallest one in your class. I love that. And, uh, uh, um, you haven't touched your food, and he slams his
Yeah.
hands in the food. What knockers? Oh, thank you, doctor.
Or what
Roll,
is it?
roll, roll in the hay. It's
That
another
a
good one.
give?
Set a give. Yeah.
Man,
Uh,
God, Gene Wilder and Peter Boyle doing Putting on the Ritz. The most underrated. I like Igor when he's like, "Walk this way," and then he goes, "No, walk this way." And
gives
I
him the
think I
cane.
read that inspired Aerosmith, the song. They were watching it on the tour bus or something.
Oh, that could be. Mo has worked with Aerosmith, just so you know, back in the early
Really?
days. Yeah, we flew into Boston actually to record with her. They played in Moe's Tavern in one of the early episodes, and we actually flew to Boston and recorded with them.
That's great. And Hank Azaria has worked with Springsteen, kind of.
Not really. I met him a couple of times and I fanboyed on him. That's as close as I can get.
That would be the perfect segue to wrap it up. But I want to give you some love for winning that Emmy as Mitch album really quick. Tuesdays with Maury. You're there with
Oh,
a
thank
legend
you.
with Jack Lemmon. I think it won
Yeah,
an Emmy, right? For
it
miniseries.
did. It did.
Um, what was that like a little, because I know you studied drama in college, but like after all the Simpsons and all the comedic roles, you mentioned Pretty Woman and Birdcage and stuff. I guess Quiz Show was dramatic, but you were a little comic relief too, slimy. But was Tuesdays with Maury was winning that Emmy? Was that like sort of validation for your dramatic chops? Do you think? Because that's a pretty heavy topic. I've interviewed Mitch Albom about it, but it's a pretty heavy topic of him and his mentor. But did that validate you? Like, wow, I'm hanging in here with Jack Lemmon, one of the greats.
Yeah, I mean, like getting that job and doing that was more validating even than winning an Emmy, although that was really lovely, of course. Uh, but yeah, it was. I had studied with a great acting teacher named Roy London, and in that class did mostly dramatic work, and which really actually helped my comedy a lot. Past a certain point, it's committing to the reality of things and really being willing to be yourself, and not kind of worrying about whether it's funny or not, is what really makes comedy sing, I
Yeah.
discovered, and not just. And when I added that to being able to do voices, that's when my career really hit another gear.
Absolutely. Well, what's just looking down your filmography, man? What's so cool about your career is that, like, I feel like anybody you hop on a call with or any fan you met on the street would have a different one. Some might say Gross Point Blank or Shattered Glass or Dodgeball, whatever. Friends, you were Phoebe's boyfriend
Yeah,
in
I get a lot
Friends.
of friends these days. The kids love the Friends. They
Damon.
rediscover it.
Yeah.
I just put out a Friends little post on social media a couple weeks ago, and it's got like, I don't know, 13 million views on Insta or something, just getting off a plane, just going, "Hey, I'm back from Minsk. Did I miss anything in 30 years?"
Right, because that's why you had to leave Phoebe. You went to Minsk, right? And that
They
was
kept sending me to
right
Minsk.
around the same, maybe a year or two, right around the same time Seinfeld had the Rochelle, a young girl's erotic journey from Milan to Minsk. So did you run into her while you were in Minsk, David?
I did not. No, I can't say that I did. I've never actually been to Minsk.
That's my
And
best friend Seinfeld crossover I can come up with on the
that's
fly.
pretty good. That's pretty good. Now you know your stuff. You know your stuff.
You know your stuff. You got to come ready when you're talking to the legendary Hank Azaria. All right,
That's
well,
what I always tell people, but they don't really do it, Jason.
they should.
You actually did it.
Yeah, wow. Oh, wow. Well, you did it by coming on here.
I actually tell the story of that story I mentioned. I tell as Bruce leading into She's the One.
Mm-hmm.
The night I met my wife, I was with Paul Rudd, and I kind of talk about our friends' dynamic a little bit. True story.
There's a teaser.
So come see us.
Come see the show.
Especially Bruce. Anybody's welcome, but of course. But I really want Bruce fans to come out for this and see what they think of it.
Absolutely. And I hope Bruce comes out and sees it at some point as well.
The goal one day is to, do a song with them on stage. We're working towards that, that's a goalpost.
You gotta come on up for the rising. Hey, Hank Azaria, thank you so much for doing this. Again, everybody, it's your Easy Street Band is coming to the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on March 6th, and then the Baltimore Soundstage in Baltimore, Maryland on March 7th. You don't want to miss it. Thank you so much for doing this. I can just tell you're just not only hilariously talented, but you're just a great guy. Like you're down to just be able to sit here and talk for over a half hour. You're just a down to earth guy, and I'm a fan.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate your knowing your stuff all that well, both for this interview and just you're a fellow film buff like myself. And
I think
so thank you very much.
It takes a little bit of crazy to. I'm walking that
line. You have to really want to escape reality very badly, I think, is the main ingredient.
I was worried I was going to come on and like when you met Bruce and just go, Hank Azaria, and just, verbal words.
I would have taken it as a compliment.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Duffman out.
Duffman out. Oh, yeah.